What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for August 28th, 2022. It's the end of August, and they are still not talking about the status of PTUz or the release of 3.18. They're also totally fine with shipping content without any gameplay at all, and internal testing on major player-facing features is causing some unrest. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week and pile it into one video. Also, I live stream on Twitch every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/SaltEMike. And I do have a second channel called SaltEMike 2. If you guys haven't checked that out, feel free to do so. But without further ado, we have a little bit to get through this week, so let's start out with a patch note update. And with that, there was one patch on the PTU this week, PTU patch Z for 3.17.2, which was just a minor fix to Ninetales, as well as two minor fixes to a ship skin for a Gladius, I believe. There are plans to push this PTU out to live. It was planned for this past weekend, but there are some issues that they ran into, and we're going to see it get pushed, hopefully midweek this week. However, that will not change the Jumptown schedule. This past weekend, we already had week 1 of that Jumptown schedule, and this following weekend coming up, we'll have week 2 for it. And for video updates this week, we only had an ISC, there was no SCL, it was canceled, and they focused on the new cave archetype, sandy desert caves, as their main focus. And most of the update was visual, with an artist explaining their workflow a little bit, and then he said this.
For the first release, there will be no missions, but this hopefully very soon will be remedied shortly.
Yeah, so that's about on par for the course for Star Citizen, right? And then he goes on to share that there are other types of cave archetypes that will be coming in the future, hopefully with some gameplay.
Additional archetypes that we are scheduled to work on. It's going to be the rock archetype, which will replace the existing caves. The acidic archetype, which will fit into Ariel and less parts of Stanton, where those bubbling acid pools, sulfur pools. Ice archetype, which will be great for Microtech and its moons, for example. And the last one that's actually scheduled is the overgrown one, which will also work well on Microtech in the forests and on Hurston.
All these different cave archetypes are cool and needed. That's great. But I think Star Citizen has to start getting away from pushing the visual narrative to the forefront and bringing what we do at these locations, why they're important, what is the purpose of them even existing? Why did you invest time and money into these if all players can do is check them out and look at them, right? I think that this is where things are getting a little bit out of control for me personally, and why I'm starting to lose faith in the project more and more with each update that we get from the studio. I think that we should expect more from them. It's year 10, their workflow should be together, everything should be working together. And I think what we should use is Montreal as the perfect example of what is being done well. They put a bunch of new locations, they did a bunch of visual things, but they also took the time out to tie it even ever so slightly into the current Star Citizen experience. I'm not expecting any more than what Montreal did with something like caves. I just don't see the point of bringing them in where a player may look at them but not test them enough, not go through every little detail of the cave, because the gameplay is what drives the player to find issues in these locations, to test them properly, to get us from alpha to beta to live, is putting reasons for players to actually go there. It's kind of important. And then the next featurette of the video was about the new player experience and how they want to take the player from the hab to their hangar, essentially, and provide them with enough information to get them going, because Star Citizen is very hard to kind of get the ball rolling and figuring out how everything works, right? So I love that they're coming out here making this statement, but they've made a lot of statements over the last 10 years with not all of those statements being actioned upon. So for me, the video update on this is good. It's good to hear from Todd Pappy on these things, but it's also way more important to see the action. So for me, I will definitely cover this in much more detail when there's some more action going on, some more stuff that we can show you in relation to this, but that'll pretty much do it for video updates this week. And for other updates this week, we'll start out with subscriber Flair, and it's the RSI Zeus flight suit, which is a historical reference to the first space explorers in the Star Citizen universe. Not much going on here. I wonder if this flight suit would even be useful, because I would imagine something that old wouldn't have all of the bits and bobs that newer flight suits would have, right? But I think we'll find out more about that in the subscriber update, I think coming next week. Then we had a lore post, which was community questions. A lot of people like those. I didn't see much there in relation to gameplay and stuff like that, but they did show botany as well as regeneration. Then there was a jump point. If you guys are into the development update around 3.17.2, which we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks now, or the Unification Wars, those were the main highlights there. And then the ship showdown update was around the PTV. They said it will not participate in this year's event because they scheduled out some time to work on it, and that doesn't fall in line with this year's event. This does open the idea that they're being disingenuous here, as well as trying to sell larger things, more monetary, more higher priced things, basically. And yeah, I don't really buy that because of last year's winner, right? So again, always drama around this event, just not worth getting involved in, and is super annoying. Then Yogi strikes again and made a couple posts this week. The first one is discussing the confidence, or his confidence, in the player experience team as well as his internal flight team. And this comes from them sharing any changes which seem massive with the community members. They don't want to do that right now. I touched about it at the beginning of the video. Major flight changes are coming, but they have not shared any of those ideas or done any playtests with members of the community at this point. My only response to this is even some of their balance changes have not worked out. And many a time, players get their hands on these things, break them down nearly instantly, and show how they're flawed. So I don't think the community has confidence in these teams, and this is why threads around this subject is incredibly long, because of Star Citizen's history. History has shown this doesn't work. I don't necessarily believe that putting it in the hands of the players would make it work either. But I'm not really a combat pilot. I don't know the nitty-gritty details around these subjects, but at the same time, you can just look at past history and go, yeah, this stuff hasn't really worked in the past. His first response in this thread actually was about the original post, which was around the light fighter meta needing to change. And he echoed those ideas. But again, the PvP community will just break down any of this work that is going in the background to change these things, which they are very kind of happy about so far. But I'm not totally buying that any of this will work until we get it in actual players' hands that will take advantage of whatever changes they make. I'm always a glass half empty person, and I think this just comes down to the development strategy needed for Squadron 42. I think Squadron 42 needs a big update around flight, ship combat, PvE, everything, so they can move on with the project. That's all this is related to. I think that's where we're at. And I think that is the right thing to do for both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen at this time. Because in order for Star Citizen to move forward, Squadron 42 has to move forward. So whatever it takes, that's what we're going to do. Whether at this moment you feel that this is the right idea for PvP in 3.18 or in 3.19, you're probably right if you feel that, doing it more slowly and small iterative processes where the players in the community are involved more. Yes, that is probably a better situation, but is it the right situation right now? I'm not entirely sure. And with that, guys, that will do it for this week's Week in Review. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me about anything that you guys touched on or that we touched on and your thoughts on that. And that'll do it. Again, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe for more Weeks in Review. and I'll catch you guys next week.